I am honored to be joining my colleagues in announcing the introduction of the Pulmonary Fibrosis Research Enhancement Act of 2011. This is about a disease that claims 40,000 Americans a year, but which most Americans have never heard of. Another 48,000 Americans are diagnosed each year, but just as worrisome is the number of misdiagnoses and missed diagnoses. We don't know enough about this disease, which is why we're introducing the Pulmonary Fibrosis Research Enhancement Act today in both the Senate and the House. I'm honored to be joined by bipartisan colleagues from both houses, by Senator Crapo, Senator Murray, and Senator Kirk in introducing the bill in the Senate. Congressman Paulson and Congresswoman Baldwin are joining us as partners in the House, and we understand that they're currently voting, and although they wanted to be with us, they were not able to join us today. I am also particularly honored and blessed to be joined by Congressman Mike Castle, who came down from Delaware today because for years he worked tirelessly in the House to advance similar legislation. Pulmonary fibrosis is an issue close to his heart, and I'm so glad he was able to join us here today. Congressman Castle really is the reason that I'm here today and that I am engaged in co-sponsoring this legislation. I've known the congressman since I was in high school and have long admired his decades of leadership, both to our state and in the United States Congress. I didn't know much about pulmonary fibrosis like most Americans and was speaking with him at the White House Christmas party. He and Congressman Baird were talking about what they had done in Congress and what they had hoped to do in the future. And I asked them about some of the things they'd fought hard for. And principal among them was this bill, of which they were co-sponsors in the last Congress. And as I listened to them talk about how this very difficult, very hard disease had affected them and their families personally, I was moved to learn more about it and to join them in standing up as some of the many Americans who have tried to fight to bring PF to the forefront of the American consciousness. One of the things that's always made Delaware special is the way that folks like Congressman Castle and I are able to work together in a bipartisan way to tackle hard issues. Certainly the 200,000 Americans currently affected by pulmonary fibrosis don't care whether the folks who are working on the issue are Democrats or Republicans, members of the House or senators, governors or physicians. They're really less interested in partisanship and role in life than they are in having this dreadful disease tackled. So that's why I'm so proud that both versions of these bills have bipartisan support in both the House and Senate. And I'm proud to stand with my Republican colleagues today in support of this legislation. We've got lots of folks who want to say a few words, so I'll be brief. But let me quickly say that this bill does three main things. It creates a pulmonary fibrosis registry and advisory board, because getting a handle on this disease requires understanding exactly how prevalent it is. We need better information, and this bill will help us get that. It tasks the CDC with developing an action plan for education and awareness for how we get on a path towards a future cure of this disease, and it encourages the NIH to expand research into pulmonary fibrosis so that one day we will have a cure.
I've dreamed about this for a long time, that one day we would be in a room like this and you'd be here and we'd be able to tell you about what we're doing and how great it is and how we're soon going to be able to do something about this awful disease. And, you know, I look at the faces here, and I know all of these people and how this disease has affected them. And this little speech I wrote kind of goes out the window because it's an awful experience. And I was going to tell you about my friend Doris, who was transplanted for this disease. She survived breast cancer, but she developed this. And they said, well, you know, you might live a few years. She was 40 years old. She actually was transplanted, and I was hoping she might make it here today, but she couldn't. Another friend he received a transplant on Sunday, and the only chance for survival is with a lung transplant. And, you know, we have a surgeon here who knows, and many of you may know, when you start moving body parts out, that's a big deal. We need better answers. And only about 1% of our patients, transplant's an option for them. So that's not really a treatment option. And I just wanted to let you know that, you know, I've lost 5 people in my family to this, 100% of the generation that precedes me. So my twin sister and I, my brother and my cousins are all in the bullseye. And most people get the disease 15 years younger than their parents did. And that's where I am right now. So I'm petrified because there are no treatments today. And I have a 10-month-old daughter, and I look at her and I just think, I don't want her to ever know about this. And so I do this every day to make sure she doesn't. Thank you so much.
I had an older sister and an older brother who went through this, and I saw the torture of it, the difficulty of it, at that time completely unknown to any of us. I just had no idea what they were dealing with, and with some education, I learned something about it. A lot of the people behind us who've been involved with this far before I was were very helpful in educating me. We were able to put together the legislation, which is basically embodied in the legislation being introduced in the House and the Senate again in this particular year, in order to shine a brighter light on this disease and how we might be able to either cure it or prevent it as far as the future is concerned. And I believe that the legislation is sound, and hopefully it will pass. The number of 40,000 people who die from this on an annualized basis is interesting because it happens to be comparable roughly to the same number of people who die from breast cancer each year. Breast cancer is probably a disease that is more recognized and understood than almost any other disease in America and even around the world today. There's been tremendous activity on that, and in no way should we ever take away from the research and the focus on that particular disease. But to have another disease in which there is no cure, in which people suffer tremendously, in which is getting almost no real research dollars to speak of, and in which there's such great lack of public understanding, needs to be elevated to the point that people realize that when you're diagnosed with this, your chances of living are unfortunately probably 5 years or less. And there are, as I said, a number of people here who have seen this in their families, perhaps have suffered with it themselves, and that is extraordinarily complex. And my judgment is we need to do everything we can. I'm involved with Research America. Former Congressman John Porter is the head of that board, and I agreed to serve on it. And we watch carefully what is happening in research in the United States. And I have learned that there's a lot of crossover. When you find a solution to a problem of cancer, such as Mark Kirk identified, you may find a solution to a lung problem or to a heart problem or to whatever it may be. Research tends to be able to cross over from one disease to another. So I think elevating the recognition of the fact that pulmonary fibrosis is a tremendous difficulty in the disease field could be very helpful in terms of incorporating research from all over that can make a difference in the lives of individuals. I would like to thank my friend Mark Kirk, who's been involved with this. You heard his own obvious concerns with his father's circumstance. I'd like to thank Brian Baird, who's not with us. Washington State's a long ways to come for a press conference. But it was a great leader in this particular circumstance. I particularly like to thank Senator Chris Coons, my friend from Wilmington, Delaware, who listened and is making a difference as far as this is concerned. He deserves, as far as I am concerned, a lot of credit. And I particularly thank all the family members and the others who day by day have been dealing with this problem in some way or another. We're here today and hopefully can keep encouraging everybody in Congress and perhaps across this country to make a difference, to make sure that we are dealing with the problems of pulmonary fibrosis. And it is my hopes that the next time we have a press conference is to start to announce advances in the cures and perhaps prevention of pulmonary fibrosis.